Good afternoon, everyone, across the state of Florida, and it's great to see all team members present. And I'm so glad that we all can be here today. Um, I hope everyone is excited for this opportunity to engage and to learn about the next way to present your visualizations and to talk about ways that we can actually share our data and learn to explore these opportunities collaboratively. So this is going to be a dive and almost a second part to what we've learned before. And what we have learned before is specific towards how to access and not just use our data, but then also to share our data. In this situation, we are going to be diving into a group collaboration effort. And that's going to be one of the best ways we can learn is not just to show people the possibilities, but to amplify and to allow individuals to actually access this and then do it collaboratively. When we do this collaboratively, we are going to be able to share. We're going to be able to understand it. You're also going to see this recorded, and you're going to be able to pick up a recording on the IPDAY website. So, thank you so much for joining. And again, I appreciate you on behalf of all of our colleagues here at IPDAY. Our executive director, Ms. Tammy Serrano, welcomes you, and as well as I, and I look forward to this day today. I am an interesting. I'm interesting, but there's an interesting opportunity because I serve in several capacities, but at Pensacola State College, I'm a statistician and I oversee our research areas. And I think the ability for individuals and organizations to actively create visualizations, to share data is key towards opportunities and success. But I did hear feedback from colleagues because many said that once they create data, once they create charts and graphs, they spend so much time redoing and recalculating and redoing and recalculating and then posting. And then they say what happens when they send their Excel or they send these images, they get locked or they get changed. And that was something that I heard as a really interesting criticism. So today we're going to take a different angle and opportunity about how to store data, how you can tap into your data, how you can just add new data without having to change any of the calculations and visualizations. And we're going to do this on I call this a low code to no code strategy. So this is interactive. And the nice part about this is that this session will be a way that we'll be able to dive in and look at this together. I have posted in this in this presentation, all the steps that I'm going to be taking and walking you through together. Because I think one of the best ways is to show people not necessarily how to do things, but then also how to work together to actually create them. So just for some interesting opportunities, there's some great websites that I showed you before about the resource available for Tableau Public. And again, for those that were not here last time, Tableau is a data visualization software. Is something that is not extremely costly, but there is an additional cost to it. It's not free, but for individuals that want to readily develop tools that they can send to partners, whether they're at your local organization or whether they are external to your organization, it's a great way to do so. And we're going to go from start to finish today. We're going to connect to a data source. We're going to do some quick calculations and some quick visualizations in that data source, and we're going to post it publicly for all that are present on this webinar today. So I'm really looking forward to this and hope that you all benefit from this as well. When we look at these high-level topics, I've heard from our last discussion that people had situations because they said, hey, I don't know what happens when I get new data. I work with my reports coordinators. I work with the people that generate the data and the reports from my organization, whether you are a district, whether you're a college, whether you are a technical organization, a technical institute, whether you could be working at a jail. When you could have the opportunity to create and get data, how can you tap into it so it can populate in a place that allows you to quickly understand and analyze it? And so today we're going to talk about how you're able to store this data, whether it be in Google Drive or whether OneDrive or SharePoint. We are going to learn about joining multiple data sets using no code to join multiple data sets, as long as they have the same structure, which happens when we get reports quite frequently. We're going to determine how to intersect and find where data can align that maybe is different in two data sets. And then we're going to post and we're going to do some calculations. So we're going to post this visualization. We're going to post it publicly for people to review. And then we are going to look at that. And then I'm going to send it to everyone so we can have that for practice. So hopefully this is going to be an action-packed day. And again, when you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Please go ahead and put them in there. I'm monitoring the comments. I'm monitoring these questions. So that way I can answer them and we're ready to help you, because the goal here today is to recognize that we can all learn and join and grow together, recognizing that data is so important, and the ability for us to be able to calculate and get readily accessible data that is quantifiable and measurable when we have to send reports that are consistent for our stakeholders, whether it's for a new funding source, potentially a grant, whether it could be for our supervisors, whether it's for our organization's administration. There are so many different reasons that you could need to create data, and recognizing that most organizations don't have biostatisticians and statisticians and data scientists on the side available and ready to create data visualization opportunities. This is a way that you can learn and you can grow independent. I always like to share a little bit about myself because when I went to undergrad and graduate school, there was I was not aware of the technologies and accessibilities. They didn't really exist. They started to exist, but they didn't exist. So for me, this was a new experience. This is something dashboarding that I learned a little bit later on in life. I'm a biostatistician, so I did have some knowledge of coding and background, but I did not have a background in creating data visuals. Sorry about that. My presentation started to move forward. That developed later on in my life. And when I realized there were new tools available, such as creating visualizations, then I decided to learn and grow with that. The nice part about that was that there were a lot of online courses, there were a lot of colleagues, there's local organizations where you can learn and do this together. I'm going to show colleagues present today that we're going to be jumping between a couple different data sources. On our IPDay website, you are going to see a data source that is going to be created and available for you on Excel. And I'm going to share that so you are familiar with it. And we are able to see that in this, here we go. In this Excel, you'll be able to see that, you'll be able to see this data, and this data is going to have common data identifiers. And when we have, that didn't show. Let me get that 1 second. There we go. So we're going to have common data identifiers. We're going to have the different data that is itemized on each one of these fields. And the nice part about this is that as you see on these row headers, these are called row headers or data markers. These are the field identifiers or the names of your data. This is usually the first column on an Excel spreadsheet. These data fields, these names, these naming conventions are going to be consistent on our 3 different sheets. So as you can see here, I have 3 different sheets, one that says ABE JED data. I have one that says data ABE GED additional data, and then data ESOL. And this could be an example of 3 different data sources, or maybe one report that was created 3 different times. But the nice part about them is that they have student IDs, they have first names, last names, they have some information about their date of birth, they also have some age information, they have some race and zip codes, so we can do a lot with this. When we have these 3 different data sets, you can see that they're grouped and categorized because in this fake data world that we created here, we have those that are specific to ABE and GD. We have some additional ABE and GD data. So you can imagine this is requesting maybe more enrollment after a certain time. And then here's some ESOL data. So students that are only in an ESOL program. I'm going to show you that through the ability for us to tap into a Google Drive. So I just have an ability for us to get into a Google Drive. This data is stored in a Google Drive. So the same exact data that I had in that Excel spreadsheet, I have posted into a Google Drive, into a place that I can get access to. So the only difference here is that I did not post any names. And this is something that I'm always careful about, is that if I don't have to post any kind of identifiable information, specifically names, I don't want to post it because there's always a chance of opportunities for leaking and breaching data. So when I post data, I always highly recommend that you don't post any data that has any kind of identifiable information, specifically names. Never post social security numbers. Hopefully that's not something that you have access to, but I am very rarely ever going to post names. I do have a unique situation because I have some student IDs that are here. And this is again posted in our data cloud. What I'm going to show you today is a unique opportunity is that we are going to use Tableau in order for us to access this data. So when we access this data, okay, 1 second. Okay. When we access this data, we're going to be able to connect to it via a connector. And these connectors are inherently provided in Tableau. So these are things that are provided to you naturally. And I've highlighted some very common ones that you may use in Tableau. And I really appreciate these because there's a lot that's on here. There's a lot that we can see Tableau do. However, there's things that I'll probably never use in my career. Maybe I will, I never know where my career is going to be in a couple of years, but I've identified some very important areas and connectors, ways that Tableau can access data. Specifically, you're able to access, as I showed prior to, connecting to a text file or Microsoft Excel. You can also pull data charts out of PDFs, but specifically, there are ways that you can tap into Salesforce, you can tap into OpenSearch by Amazon, you can tap into Google Drive, OneDrive, or a SharePoint site, and then there's plenty of other additional connectors. These are delivered, and you can use the ways that are provided in Tableau in order to access data. And do not fret, we are going to go through this example together. I'm going to show how we can use Tableau in order to access our data, and then create a couple of visualizations and then post. So super excited about this opportunity, and then for us to demonstrate how to do this. So again, we're going to walk through this. And at this point, I have stored my data in Google Drive. I have stored my data in Google Drive. So why I have put it in Google Drive is I have put it there because that is similar to an open source data storage. When you look at Google Drive, it is considered a opportunity that many of our organizations have access to. We're usually either Microsoft organizations or we are Google organizations. But if you're a Microsoft organization, this is going to parallel something similar to connecting to a OneDrive or SharePoint. So just because I think it's so important that we're able to demonstrate, I'm going to share. I'm going to share colleagues. I'm going to share with us a Tableau connector. So we are going to open up and we're going to connect data together. And all these steps I'm going to share and store with you. I'm going to share and I'm going to explain to you, which are also exemplified in the PowerPoint. So I'm going to open up and share and connect to a data source. So if you have access and you are able to temporarily gain access to Tableau, you are able to see this is what opens up. So I open up Tableau and it has some open files that I've created before. It has some natural connectors. It has some interesting posts and information about posts that they post on there regularly for individuals to have. I know that I have this data stored and shared in a Google Drive. So this is stored and shared in a Google Drive. So I am going to connect to my Google Drive because my Google Drive has this data stored in a location called IPDAY demo data. So as I'm open here, I'm going to click on more. So there's ability for me to click on the more. And now what I'm going to do is that I see I have all these different ways to connect to different data. But for me, I've stored my data. I have my data stored in a Google Drive. This might be similar to your organization where you have access to OneDrive or SharePoint, which is common if you're a Microsoft organization. You might have access to OneDrive or a SharePoint site. You might create one for yourself to use, and you could practice with it at your own leisure. The nice part about this is that these are all different ways to connect to different data, depending upon how your organization may store your data. So I'm going to connect to my Google Drive. The interesting part about this is that when you connect to your Google Drive, you have to give Tableau access to your Google Drive, because what's going to happen is that we're going to either allow Tableau to update naturally. So if your data updates or if you get a new report, you can copy and paste data in there, and I'm going to demonstrate how that works. Or you can tell Tableau, hey, you know what? I don't want you to connect to this data live. I want to manually refresh it, and that's going to be a decision. It shows two of my different Google accounts. So I'm just going to check my top one here at Delta Node, and it's going to say by continuing, you're going to say that it's okay for Tableau to have access to this drive and this data. I'm going to click continue. And it says, here's what it's going to have access to. It's going to have access to my data. It's going to have access to my personal information. It's going to have access to my name. It's going to have access to all this information. So you have to agree if you want to connect through this mechanism to allow your data to be live, to access the data through this measure. Again, all of these steps are outlined in the PowerPoint, which is stored and shared on our IPDAY website. So I'm going to click continue. And when I click continue, note here that it says Tableau has created the ability to log into your data. You don't have to download it. You don't have to put it on your desktop. You don't have to put it on your computer anywhere. It is now safe to close this sheet. So again, remember, this is what the data looks like. When I look at my Tableau, it now basically gives me my drive, my share with me, my shared drives, and all these different names. And comparing both at the same time, comparing both at the same time, you will see here that this is my drive. It has all my different folders. It has my shared drive, share with me. And that's what is showing up here. So it parallels what I have in my organizational structure, or maybe lack thereof, in my Google Drive. So now, oops, I just closed that out. I'm going to open up my one if-day demo because that's where I've stored my data for this presentation. And this is going to be my data that I'm going to tap into. So now I'm just going to open it by double clicking. And what it's going to say right now is that Tableau is executing a query. And Tableau has found these three sheets. And so remember, when we looked at these sheets, we had our ABE-GED. Notice our ABE-GED. We had our, whoops, that's this one. We had our data ABE-GED additional data, which is this sheet. And then we have our data ESOL. So Tableau, through this connector, allows me to dive and open up into my Google Drive, and it allows me to pull in this data. Now, in order for me to access this and start manipulating and start working with my data in Tableau, I'm going to drag these sheets into my frame. So notice I'm not doing any coding. I'm just left clicking and I'm dragging. I'm left clicking and I'm dragging. And notice this is going to parallel almost to what we see here. The only difference was, remember, in my drive, I redacted, I eliminated the names just to secure some PII. It's a good nature and good protocol. I don't need these fake names in there. So you're going to see in here that they're showing up as fake and null. And why do I often not delete them? I don't want to delete the actual fields. I don't want to delete these fields and change the format of my Excel or my data. That tends to cause more problems later on. So for me, I just have a habit of just deleting the data within the cells, and I keep the format the same. For us to have these nulls that are populating, null means that there's just no data. The Tableau has recognized this data is empty and nothing else exists. It just says that it's null, that there's nothing here. But otherwise, I have my year, my student ID, my first name, my last name. Again, these are fake. I have my date of birth in this format of year, month, day, day. And then I have a date of birth in another format. Notice they look different, but we're going to dive into how to fix that. When my semester began, my age as of today, and then my age as of a date, and that's the age as of the semester beginning. I have the race of all of our students that are in this, and I have their zip code, their gender, their program of study, and their entry functioning level. One of the ways that we are looking at tabulating and determining these outcomes is by EFLs. Super important in adult education. So now we realize that there's a little bit of an issue. And in Tableau, Tableau said, okay, these dates that came in on the birth dates are not looking, they're not looking correct. Yikes, that's an issue. And normally that just causes so many problems because we have to change the format of the data here. And sometimes we get the right format, sometimes we don't. The nice part here is that there's so much natural, I call it brilliance. I don't want to use the term AI because I don't know if it's AI, but it's a lot of natural brilliance. I can go ahead here at this data level and I can change and tell Tableau that this is actually a date. I come over here, I left click on that little number, hashtag #, depending upon what you called this in the time of identifying hashtags or pound signs. And I'm going to say that this is actually a date field. And through that point and click interface, I was able to convert this to a date that makes sense. And notice these two dates parallel. And that's the nice part about this, is that you can go through and you can tell Tableau that this is really not a number. This is really a date. This is not really a date, but this is a number. This is a descriptor variable. We call those strings. This is a numerical value. A numerical value is one that makes sense to multiply, divide, add, or subtract. So even though a date is numerical, you're never going to multiply two dates together. And that's the way that I remember the different ways of classifying data and fields. Is if I can multiply or divide it or add or subtract it and it makes sense, then I call those numerical data or numbers. If a data looks like a number, for example, a phone number, I'm never going to multiply two phone numbers together. So I call those descriptor variables or strings. But for our means and purposes today, we see here that we have this data, and it's really nice for us to try to figure out how many row lines of data that I have here. And that actually tells me right here at this, this orientation, I have 15 fields, 15 of these different fields of data, these classifications of data, and 605 row lines. I'm going to go ahead and look at this, and I see that I have these fields, and there's 15, and I'm hoping that I have these 600 and, this is one of the ones I've updated. Let me see here, this 399, okay, this is gonna be one I show for later, but in my Google Sheet, let me show our Google Sheet, let me get to that. There are going to be 600, and I'll go to my drive, close that out. Here we go. Opening my Google Sheet, so I'm opening this live. When I go to my Google Sheet here, let's hope I have, awesome. my 606, it shows 606 lines down here. But remember, colleagues, that the first row line that I have is my header fields. My first row line is my header field, so that doesn't actually count as a row of data. Tableau says, hey, I recognize this is a real row, but it's not really a row of data. So they're only calculating the actual row lines of students. So that's the reason why it found these 605 row lines. So one of the situations that I was emailed about after our last discussion is what happens when you get new data or data is in different Excel files or on different sheets. Colleagues, as long as you have the data in the same format, meaning that the same fields are here, the same descriptors are here, and that's pretty common if you request reports from people that can write reports. They're going to send you data in similar formats, so hopefully the same format. I shouldn't say similar, should be the exact same format. If not, you really want to have a talk to them because it's important to have data in the same format, because that way you can analyze it consistently. I'm going to show you how easy it is for us to append or add these two data sets together. So basically, I say I want to add this data, so this 605 student level data field lines to this additional 6 data lines. So in Tableau, that is very simple to do. As long as you have the same field headers that are present, you can left click on this additional sheet and I can drag it. And when I drag it in, it's starting to make this interesting little connector coil. But this connector can either join or it can either union or append or add. I want to union, I want to marry these data sets together. So I'm going to left click and drop that into a union. And notice when I left click and drop it into union, now it just says I have 611 rows of data. It added those data fields, those data row lines from our first sheet and our second sheet together. How awesome was that? There was no coding involved. There was no writing a script or a macro. There was nothing that required me to copy and paste and potentially shift things the wrong way. So that made this a very nice and simple task to add. So colleagues, there is also a third data set of our ESOL students. The nice thing is I see my 15 row, my header rows, my 15 header rows, my fields are the same. I can now append and union this data set. So now I have an additional 398 students. I have additional 398 students. So I'm going to add and union this data together. And notice now I have 1,009 rows of data. So it found 1,009 rows of data. Do not fret. If you join data and you really didn't want to, it's very easy to unjoin it or ununionize this. So you can come over here and you can left click on this little pill, this little tab, and you click on edit union. And you can say, oh, you know what, I really didn't want to include ESOL in this population. So you can click X, you scroll down and hit OK, and it will remove that ESOL population and only union these two data sets. So the ability to union and join data is very powerful in Tableau. What happens if the data fields are different? That's something that's a little bit more complex, not something we're going to talk about in this day, but there's a value way to actually union data sets that do have disjoint data fields, meaning that the headers are not the same, the fields are not the same. But again, for this demonstration today, we're going to assume your reports all have the same data. So in this situation, I'm going to make this easy, and I'm just going to look at our GED. I'm just going to look at our first, whoops, let me get rid of that. So I just double clicked and remove this. Now I'm going to edit this union, and I'm just going to look at our first GED population of data. This was our original one where we had our 605 rows. So last webinar where we talked on our Tech Tuesday, we talked about a way for us to create some sort of numerical outcome, some visualization in order for us to analyze this data. This is why I say it's a low code to no code, because there are situations where your student ID potentially could be duplicated. There are times where we request unduplicated data, but there might be a situation where maybe a GED ABE student is also an ESOL student. So there are situations where the student ID, especially if you join data, may exist more than once, but it's important to find one common identifier in your data. The code that we're going to write, the one little bit of code, is that we need to tell Tableau how to calculate this data, what to do if we want to calculate students. And what we're going to tell Tableau to do is we're going to say, if there's a student ID, we're going to count that student ID like a number. So for every student ID that exists, we're going to say, count this as a number, count this as student 1, count as student 2, count this as student 3, and so forth. And the way we're going to do that is that I'm going to left click on this little drop down arrow. I'm going to come down here to my calculated field where it tells me to create, and I'm going to write a little bit of code. I'm going to write a little bit of code, but I'm going to do it in all of less than 20 characters. So I'm going to name this calculation, and I'm going to call this unique ID count. Unique ID count. And this code is going to be COUNTD. COUNTD. Count distinct, but they abbreviate the distinct with a D. And right now it's saying, hey, you can't leave this code as it is because it contains some errors. Okay, I'm a little nervous, but I can do this. I need to tell it what value to count. I'm going to say count the student ID. And notice as I was typing in letters, it found the fields that I can put in here. So now I'm going to go ahead and click student ID, and it tells me, hey, this calculation is valid. Colleagues, this is the coding that we did that we're going to do today. We are not going to do any other advanced coding. We might do some point and clicks to make things visual, but this is the max of our code. I do want to say that there is a nice resource that's over here that if you want to search coding and calculations, you advance in your skill set, there are ways for you to come over here and check what to do, and they give you examples of how to code for it, but you're going to see this is still very low code to no code. What this is going to tell Tableau to do is it's going to say, count the number of student IDs when we create our data visualization. And I say, awesome, that's exactly what we want to do. So now I have this new field that I just created here, and it tells me that I created it because the hashtag, the pound sign, has a little equal sign there. It shows that I created this field. So let's go ahead and reflect on our age group calculation. We want to see how many students we have by our age group. So I can go ahead and left click on my age group. I can left click on my unique ID, and notice Tableau is going to give me some ideas about how to create some visuals. So I don't have to worry about doing this myself. I can just use the basic natural intelligence of Tableau, and I can say, you know what, I want to try and see, what does this one look like? Okay, look, I have 171 students that are between the age of 16 and 18. I have 202 between 19 and 24. I have 191 between 25 and 44. Okay, that's not so bad. That's pretty spiff. I didn't want to have to do that. All I had to do was click on each one of these fields that I wanted to use, and then I asked it to recommend a visual for me. Let's say I don't want this, I call this a crosstab. Let's say I want something more visual. Let's say that I want a bar chart. Okay, look at this. We have a bar chart here, and I have I'll just get rid of this. I have this little bar chart that exists. If I click on the standard, I can go to an entire view, and I can see that this optimizes the screen space. So now I can see my breakdown of my age group enrollment for my AB population. I can hit this little button if I want to invert this, and now I can see some peaks and troughs here of my enrollment. How easy was that? That took us less than 2 minutes, 3 minutes. But I want to make sure that my users, the people that are actually using this data, they can actually see the numbers. I don't want them to reflect and say, I don't know what this is. So I'm going to left click on this unique ID, and you can do it here, or you can do it here. I'm going to do it here, and I'm going to drag this into my label. When I drag this into my label, it adds the actual numerical value for each one of these values. So they can see this is 171, they can see this is 202, 191, and so forth. So we can see we have a large population that falls between the ages of 25 and 44, and then it sort of dwindles off a little bit in this data set. Awesome. Now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to click on this sheet, and I'm going to say that this is my sheet of age group groupings and enrollment. And now that's going to update here. I can either say that I want to keep it here, or I can double click, and you can justify, and you can change the way this looks if you want to. So for example, I could actually come over here and hit the little center button and click apply, and I get that age grouping and enrollment to show up here. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to hide this field column. I don't need this there. But I also see that I want these numbers a little bit bigger. Again, I'm not coding anything. I'm not going to code anything in this situation. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to go to format, and I want to increase the font. So I'm going to click on my font, and I increase that to a 12 font. And I feel pretty good about pretty good about creating this. I can see what my values of enrollment are. Let's get creative here, colleagues. Let's get creative. I want to come over here to my data source, and I want to see what the impact of joining the GED data with the ESOL data. I know that I had this amount, but oh gosh, what's my total? I realize I don't have my total on here. I don't want to have users add up my total. It's no problem. There's two things you could do. I could right click on this. I can hit duplicate. And what this does, this gives me the exact same framework of the calculations you just created. When I come over here, there is a way to use an analytics field, which is up here at the top left. And I can say, I want to drag in a total of my rows. And now I can see that I have the 604, I have the 604 row lines that are present. And that's interesting to me because I know that I had 605 row lines, but notice there's 604 present. The reason that is that even though we thought this was a unique row line for data set, there's one person that probably exists. There's one person that exists in here twice. There's one person that exists in here twice. And we said only count them if they exist once. No problem at all. I'm going to show an example here of how to connect live to your data. And this is the great and the fun part about this. When I open up our data set in our Google Drive, remember what Tableau has done. Tableau has gone through and it has identified all of this data and it's connecting to it. And as you can see, the data fields that I duplicated were these two row lines, 605 and 606. And since we told it to count it only once, we're in a safe position. We're only going to count this once. Let's say I were to say, okay, you know what? Maybe there was a typo, or maybe the student ID is really not ID 9833. I'm going to say the student's ID was really 9899. So notice when I say this is really student ID 999, I'm going to go back to my Tableau and I say, okay, I'm ready for it to update. And the interesting part about this is that this will not update immediately. It will update about every 15 minutes, but there's ways to actually go ahead and make it update. So for us, I'm going to show, all I'm going to do here is hit F5. I just hit F5 on my keyboard. And hopefully in a couple seconds, this will then update and show us the correct, oh, there we go. It will show us the correct number of 605. So the nice part about this is that this is able to connect to this data source. So if you get new data and you have this data stored and saved, you can just copy and paste it in here, or you can add another tab and you can tell Tableau to automate and add this data to your visualization on some repetitive cycle, which makes this so much easier than updating or creating new visuals or creating new calculations in Excel. I'm going to go ahead and just for our purpose of testing today, I'm going to just demonstrate what it means to add these. I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste these 4 row lines, and I'm going to change this to 98912, and this will be in 9812, and this will be 9832, and 9992. So I've added these additional values. So this now makes this unique IDs, even though everything else is the same. Tableau is only looking at these unique IDs. I'm going to come over here and I'm hitting F5 again, but if you don't remember the key, under your data source, there's a little refresh button that's up here. It says refresh the data. When I click that, I've just left clicked on that. It's going to go in and say, okay, I recognize there's some more data. And when I go back to my visuals and I see it found that additional data. So I have that additional 609 data. Awesome. I'm so happy with that. I feel very good. And now I want to create a couple more visuals. I want to create a pie chart. Let's go ahead and create a pie chart. And I want to look at our pie chart of our gender. So I'm going to click on gender. I'm going to click on my unique ID. I'm going to say, show me some ideas. I don't see this showing up automatically. Okay, that's not so bad. If it doesn't show up automatically, Tableau just didn't recognize it as a strategy to do. And the reason why it didn't want to do it automatically is because it saw that there's a very small population that does not have a gender identified. Oops, it does not have a gender identified, but that's okay. It says that it might distort it, especially if there's just one X or one non-identified gender. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to tell Tableau, I appreciate you being on the lookout for me. Let's go ahead and create a pie chart. So notice it has a pie chart, but it grouped females, it grouped males, and it grouped my non-identified student. The gender that's identified here is the student maybe didn't disclose it, or they didn't get it for some reason. So I'm going to pull my gender outside of my rows, and now it gives me a 609 value. I want to see this a little bit bigger, so I appreciate that it gives me all 609 students, but again, I wanted to look at it by gender. Okay, got it. I'm going to bring gender in as a color. I'm going to bring gender in as a color, and notice when I did that, I can see that I have three distinct sections for my females, my males, and my gender unknowns. So in this situation, we're okay. We can do a lot of cool things with this. First of all, I realize this is not proportional. This is not proportional to the population that I have. What I'm going to do here is that I'm going to drag my unique head count and I'm going to put it into my angle And I'm going to say, let's go ahead and redimensionalize this according to the population that I have. And notice what it did there. I'll just do it one more time. I'm going to drag this into the angle, and now it dimensionalized this, reflecting on the actual population and the percentage of the pie that it represents. I realize that I'm very happy with this. I realize I want to see the numbers, so I'm just going to make this font a little bit bigger. So I got it back up to 12, and maybe I don't like the colors. Okay, no problem. If I don't like the colors, I can come back up here to color, and I can edit my colors. And there's a lot of cool palettes that are delivered with Tableau. So you can go through these and check them out at your leisure, but there's a lot of really nice palettes that are here. I have taken a couple classes about data presentation, not just the calculations, but the presentation of the data. And soft tones tend to be more willing and accepting. There are people that like the brighter tones, but I'm tossed up on that decision. But again, that's more of a decision that you and your organization will make in the color schemes. I do recommend when you choose colors to be consistent with them. So now I'm just going to choose my Tableau of 20, and I'm going to say, just assign it for me. And notice here, it gives me a light blue and a blue, and then this orange of the unknowns. You can manually tell it to assign a color. So for example, if you wanted your males to be red and maybe your females to be yellow, and then your unknowns to be, we could do a value of gray. We could do something like that as well. And this might be more realistic towards the consistent type of color assignment that you'd like to do. So that's a pretty cool experience, but we were able to determine and break down this as a pie chart. And we could use a color scheme. Noticing here, it did not affect my colors on this visualization, or it affected my colors on this visualization. But we can change the colors on these visualizations the exact same way. I can go to my color palette. You can choose colors here. You're able to break them down. You can change them just like we did before. You can actually select colors by picking them on different screens. So if you have a logo or something, you can actually pick the colors. But for this means and purposes, I'm just going to keep it with the default blue that came. So now I have my pie chart of gender. So I'm going to say pie chart of gender. Student gender. Student gender. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good about this. And now I realize that, okay, I want to look at my EFLs. I love EFLs. EFLs are so important. So I'm going to add a new sheet, and I have my EFLs, and then I'm going to have my unique ID. And let's go ahead and code this. And I'm just going to click on one of these visuals to look at. And it gives me these breakdowns here. It's a little clustered for me. I really don't like that very much. So I'm going to come over here. Okay, I'm still not pretty happy with this. Okay, this delivery is not so bad. It's not as pizzazzed as some of the other ones, but at least it gives me my entry functioning level of my EFL students. Notice it doesn't give me the EFLs of my students, sorry, EFLs of the students in the population. So notice here when I come to my analytics, it doesn't give my row total, but I can tell it to give me a row total by bringing in the totals. And now I can see that I have the 609 students that are present. So, so I might just rename this one student by EFL. So again, nothing that's too huge, but the nice part is that this can update. It's going to be something that you can add, and you can evaluate with other different data that's on here. You could even bring out program and drag program in there. So you would, I'm sorry, I did gender. We can bring in gender. You can study by program. So you can see that you have your 10 GEDs and your 599 ABEs. You can always click back and forth and maybe do a heat map. You could break this down into its own column or bar chart. So there's a lot of different things that you can do as you so see fit. But for the purposes of today, we're going to have our student by EFL. We're going to have a pie chart of our gender. We're going to have our age groupings, but we're going to add a little bit of pizzazz to this because I want to see my age groupings maybe by gender. So I'm going to bring my gender into my color. And now notice it's nice because it remembers that I used the gender on this with a color scheme. It's going to bring the gender into the color scheme here. So that's something that's pretty nice. I appreciate having the ability for it to remember the genders and the colors. But notice in here that this is a large grand total, and it does dimensionalize based off the perspective. So sometimes adding a grand total is helpful. Sometimes it's not helpful. So I realize here that maybe it doesn't make sense maybe to add gender here because it could be dwarf. So I'm going to pull gender back out. Again, this is your discretion. It's however you like to see the data. And I'm going to add gender to the one that does not have the grand total. So I'm going to bring my gender into this color. And now this helps give a little bit better of a proportion and distinction here. I can see that I'm pretty much split 50-50 with my age 16 to 18. I can see I have one little color blip down here. of the gender that was unknown. The student didn't disclose it. And it's again 111 and 93, but I don't see what they are. I want to make it easy. So I'm going to drag my gender into my label. So now I can see that this is female and male just to make it easier for my users. And I can see there's a very large disparity between the age of 25 and 44. It looks like this is potentially 4 to 5 times more in volume than it is in the other population. So this might be something to analyze, and it just stands out to you. So again, this is something that you can do. You work with the individuals and you reflect on what's needed, and then ultimately you'll be able to develop something that you can post. And we're going to do that today. So the nice part about this is that I have these 4 visualizations. So I'm going to call this enrollment total. I don't like that too, so I'm just going to double click with total. So now I want to group all 4 of these visuals together. I want to group all 4 of these visuals together. And that's the difference between a data visualization, a pane, or a dashboard. So here we were creating these, they call them worksheets, just like an Excel worksheet, or we want to create a dashboard where we can drag all these together. But it's going to be so easy to put this all together, colleagues. It is something that is not hard to do. We're going to add a new dashboard here, and I'm just going to call this dashboard Adult Education Practice with IPDAY. So Adult Education Practice with IPDAY. So notice this has a different view than last time, but again, everything here is very drag and drop. Everything here is very drag and drop. The first thing is I want to put a title. I want to put a title. So I have a little text box down here. I'm going to drag that into my sheet, and I'm going to call this Adult Education Practice with IPDAY. So I'm just typing in the sheet. I know that I tend to like with my titles some larger fonts. So I'm going to click, well, I was going to click 20. And then I'm going to bold this, and I have this here. Oh, I didn't center it. So I just double click on this, and I'm going to click center. Awesome. So now I was able to put this title in here. Now I want to bring these four visualizations, these four independent visualizations in. These are the worksheets that are found here. They align vertically here. So I'm just going to left click and drag. So I'm left clicking, and it's giving me some perspective. Do I want to make it on the left side? Do I want to make it on the right side? Do I want to put it on the bottom? Again, very easy to drag and pull this around. I'm going to drop this in. Okay, that looks pretty nice. It put the values here of the gender and the colors, so that made it pretty nice. I'm going to drag in my next one, and I'll put that adjacent to it. This is the one with the totals. So again, I don't know if I would really do this in a traditional setting. I might just keep the total by itself, but for the means and purposes today, I will go ahead and keep this one. I'm going to drag in these EFLs. I'm going to put this right here. So now I have my EFL. Okay, that doesn't look as nice, but I'll do a little fixing, no worries. And then I'm going to bring in my pie chart. I'm going to bring in my pie chart. And now I have my pie chart of student gender. So please excuse all the grammar errors. Those were intentional. But now I want to do a little bit of formatting to make this look a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm not going to include this, this tab here. I'm going to go ahead and notice it rescales it automatically. I realize that I did not center this title, so I'm going to double click, and I'm just going to move this to center. Everything is very clickable, low code to no code. Again, I'm going to double click, and I'm going to hit, where am I double clicking? Okay, I thought I was going to double click, of course, when I do it. Come on, double click. Okay, so of course I can't open it when I'm doing it publicly. I'd probably open on a different view, but normally you double click like I did before, and you would, okay, it works there, but it's not working here. So if it doesn't work here, I'm just going to go to my sheet, and I'm going to tell it to go to the center. So I had to just do a little workaround, but nothing that was not impossible. Oh, that's because I didn't center this. So what was happening? This was not maximized in this pane. So I'm just going to left click on this, and I'm going to say, let's fit the entire view. And now it makes a little bit better sense. So I was having a little bit of issue there, but I had not maximized the view. So now I have my title. I'm just going to drag and do a little bit of dropping. I have my different visuals, and you know, I might want to make this a little more distinct. I'll just show you how easy it is to update the layout. So each one of these are boxes. You can tell it to put a border. You can add some color if you wanted to. There's a lot of things that you could do if you wanted to update the color of the border. So I'm just going to make this a large green border. Well, actually, I'll try to keep the consistency of the colors on the viz. So I have that there. I'm going to update the border here. So I'm just left clicking on each one of these and say I want a border to make it more distinct, and a border to make it more distinct, and a border to make it more distinct. So Now here's the cool part. So you've developed this, we developed this, it's taken us all 15 to 20 minutes. And now we want to publish this, so other people can have access to it. And that's the brilliant part about this, is that you can publish this and you can keep this, you can post it on your website, you can embed it, you can share it on social media, you can use this later on, you can download this as PowerPoints, or you can download this as PDFs or images. There's such a variety of opportunities we can use with this data. The cool part that we're going to do here is that in order for us to publish, we have to have a Tableau public account, and that is free. There's no cost to publish to have a Tableau public account. That's one of the links that I put in on our third slide in our presentation. In order for me to publish, I'm going to come over here to my server, or I could hit this little button, so whichever one you want. I'm just going to click on server, and down here it says Tableau public. I want to save this to Tableau public. You can either click save to Tableau public or save to Tableau public. God, that's a mouthful. Save to Tableau public as. I'm going to click this, and what this is going to do is going to tell you to sign in with your free account. So I created a new account yesterday, but notice here it's giving me a little bit of a flag, and it says, hey, hey, there's data here. It's not going to allow me to publish it until I do a refresh or an extract. Colleagues, do not worry. I will show you a cool trick. So what this is telling you to do, I didn't even say oops, is that you have to create an extract of this data. And in order for us to create an extract of this data, you have to come, over here. Okay. You have to tell Tableau, so I'll show you what I did. So I went back to my page, and it just asked me to come over to my page, and I am telling it to create an extract, which is what I did. I clicked on this button and I created my extract. And now when I do this, it just tells me, do you want to create the extract for your live connection? I'm going to say, yes, I do, because I don't want to have to create this more than once. So now I'm just saving this, and this is saved on your local desktop. But when you publish this to the Tableau cloud, it will be able to create that live connection. So the nice part now is that I've created an extract. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go back to my server, back to my Tableau public, and I'm going to say save to Tableau public as. So I'm going to call this, what do we call this? Adult education practice with IT Day. So notice, colleagues, what this says here is this: you have the option to publish this, so it will update if you update the data in your Google Drive. So and again, that's the same for OneDrive or Power BI, or SharePoint. This, you can say update this, and it will update probably about every 14 to 15 minutes. So if there's a change to the data, it will pick it up, and where this is published, it will update. Or you can unclick it and say, no, I don't want you to do any updating. I don't want to put my credentials in there, and you pull back. So I'm just going to click, okay, let's update this, and let's see what happens if I change things naturally. Now I click save, and what this is going to do, this is going to prompt me to open up my Tableau public account. So I'm going to click my Google Drive account access that I had access to. It's re-authenticating, so I feel pretty good about that. Since that's authenticated again, it's going to now push this to Tableau public. So colleagues, this is all this is, and now this is a public visualization. And the nice part about this is that this published each one of these independently. I only want to keep the dashboard, so that's an easy way to change that. This just says show all sheets. I'm just going to get rid of the show all sheets. And now that's just going to be updating and changing that setting. So I will show you, colleagues, now that since I did that, we only have one visualization that's here. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click copy my link. Notice this is an embeddable code. So if you want to put this into a website, you can embed this visualization into a website. You can post this on different social medias. You can email individuals. I'm going to post the link in the chat here. So for colleagues that want to see what this looks like on their desktop or their phone, this is phone friendly as well. And all of this is actionable. All of this is actionable. And again, that's one of the nice parts about this, is that you can go through and you can add descriptors. There's a lot that's in Tableau Public that people can use. You can search for other values. But hopefully, colleagues, you found this interesting and helpful, because I've always appreciated the opportunity to publish things and make them live. I will tell you that I'm going to go here and I'm going to log in incognito. So when you log in incognito, it's just a way to have nothing memorized. This is what happens when you log in incognito. So this is what a user would see. Let's say you want to download this as an image. You could download this as a PowerPoint, where it puts it into a PowerPoint. You can do a lot of that. You can save it. You can send this to your colleagues or friends. And the nice part here is that if we go back to the original one, this is what it looks like on the end of the non-host, the non-author. is that we can go over here and there's a little request data refresh. So you could actually tell, you could tell the public visualization if you establish that connection to tap into your Google Drive, to tap into your OneDrive or your the data source that you wanted. So you can actually tell it to request that data refresh. So this takes this happens naturally and it will tell you when the last time it was updated, or you can hit this and it will say there's a data refresh request. This page will update and you'll have to hit the refresh button. It won't update live. You always have to hit the refresh button. So that is one example of how we took data in our Google Drive that was once on Excel, we connected to our Tableau public, and then we made this live. These are the step-by-steps, and I don't go back into the PowerPoint view just because I wanted to show everyone the step-by-steps that are associated with this. Colleagues, these are the steps-by-steps that you will use that I executed in order to make this happen. So I have posted these, and this will also be in our visual. You will be able to replicate this, and you'll be able to try this out on your own if you'd like to. And we hope that this has been a fantastic experience to give a different perspective on how you can access data and how you can transform your data into something that makes sense and is visual. We are very visual and we are very we're oriented towards colors and things that stand out. So having this and ability for you to update live, I think is a great way to help strengthen your departments. We posted a feedback poll for your feedback because we're always looking to grow and get better. So we'd appreciate if you could complete this feedback survey, which is posted on your screen. There is another session that is coming up, and I want to definitely amplify what that session is, and that's going to be tomorrow, colleagues, at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The session is Florida Ready to Work, Career and Readiness for Adult Education Students. And again, that is Florida Ready to Work, Career and Readiness for Adult Education Students. And that's at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be more than happy to stick around for questions because we realize we just have a couple more minutes before the webinar ends, but we hope that you have appreciated this to give a different aspect of opportunities for you to present data, to connect to data, to append data, to post data, and develop different visualizations to make your departments efficient and help them grow in their capacity to share and to extract meaningful data utilization. So thank you, colleagues. This has been a privilege, and I appreciate everything that you all do for the world of adult education. We know that this is a very important population, and especially in Florida, it is a way that we can really impact our communities to help individuals advance their education through adult basic education needs. Also, colleagues, thank you so much for what you do. And on behalf of everyone here at IPDAY, we wish you a wonderful afternoon and a great day. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mary Louise, Kathleen. Appreciate you all very much and hope that you enjoyed this. Thank you, colleagues.